It's your weekly breakaway for fun conversations on pro cycling and so much more. Join us as we go beyond the slipstream. I'm Matt Harper, and together with my brother Justin, we'll do deep-ish dives on bike races, movies, bands, and all manner of shiny pop cultural objects. Oh, and did I mention bike races? We're kind of obsessed. Allez!
Hello and welcome to Beyond the Slipstream. I'm Justin and this is my brother Matt. And today in our first two segments, we're going to break down all of the stage racing action from both Paris-Nice and Tirreno-Adriatico. We'll also have a review of the sprinting action from the Italian one-day classic, the Trofeo Alredo Binda, one of the oldest races on the women's calendar. And of course, no episode of Beyond the Slipstream is complete without a wee ride in the Broom Wagon. Allez! Paris-Nice, one of the first really big stage races of the year, concluded in Nice, France today. One of the earlier races on the calendar where we get to see the GC riders beginning their tune-up for Grand Tour season, the race gave us a somewhat unlikely winner last year in the form of American Matteo Jorgensen, racing for his new team, Visma Lease Bike. Jorgensen is back on form this year, and with the exit of his teammate Jonas Vingegaard from the race after a crash earlier in the week, there was no question who VLab squad was pulling for by the time the peloton rolled out for the final stage into Nice today. The race to the sun was anything but sunny this year. Matt, were you warned by the action on today's stage?
OMG, yes. I could not have been more warmed by the action on today's stage. What a glorious day for American cycling, with the American 1-2, Magnus Sheffield of the Ineos Grenadiers taking the stage win, and our boy Matteo Jorgensen coming through to make it a back-to-back GC win in Paris-Nice on his home turf. Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, he looked good all week long. I mean, he really just looked like he was in fine form the whole week.
Yeah, and we were sort of set up for perhaps a little battle between him and Jonas Vingegaard, as to the leadership of the race, because Matteo's the defending champion, but Jonas is Jonas, and Jonas is no stranger to taking early season 1 week stage races. So I did like the fact that in interviews, Jonas was keeping it super chill and like, I don't care who wins this race as long as one of us does. I'm more than happy to throw down for Matteo. And he made good on that claim until he had to leave the race after the crash. I don't think there was footage of the crash. It was before the cameras came on. Yeah, but he was struggling all throughout that day. And I
think with the cold too, that it was something to do with his hand, and so with the cold, and the hand thing, it was just making it really, really difficult. And I don't think there was any fractures that I heard, but I definitely think that played into why he abandoned, because I don't think that he wanted to do another day on the bike up into the mountains in the cold with the messed up hand.
For sure. I think when you're a Jonas Vingegaard type, if there's not a big enough prize to chase, you're not staying in a race like that. There's no point in it. Jonas Vingegaard is not interested in second or third. Now, granted, for the team, they did have Matteo in there, but I think they were confident enough that Matteo could close the deal on his own without having Jonas there. Did make for more interesting racing today, though. I mean, when we picked it up, you could clearly see that Matteo was by himself all day today,
completely isolated.
And he spoke about that in the post-race interview. They knew that was going to be the case, but he really gave it up for the team as far as the flat stages throughout most of the other parts of the race. They were just there for him. And on the mountain stage, Jonas was still in the earlier mountain stage. So, they really just like executed. And what can you say about Matteo Jorgensen? I mean, this guy is just he's awesome, and he's so chill. To me, Matteo Jorgensen is the what's his name, Jaden Daniels of bike racing. JD is just like chill. It's just so chill, just preternaturally calm, and Matteo is like just keeping it chill, real, just thoughtful guy.
Seems very
not
calm.
Showy.
Yes.
He hit us with that wink in the in the post race, with the 2 winks in the post race interview. Oh, it was so great. I mean, so looking back on the whole race, what stood out to you?
Before he dropped out, Mateo Skelmos really looked good. He was in the mix a lot of the week.
I'm going to disagree with that.
Ooh, really?
Yeah, because Pedersen on 2 separate stages, I think on stages 4 and 5, was setting up Skelmos for wins, just putting in tons of work. I mean, I think it was stage 4 where Pedersen was just out front, bossing it like up these climbs. And Skelmos couldn't close the deal in either instance. Mads was putting out a whole lot for him, and all credit to Mads Pedersen. I mean, that's another huge bright spot of this race because he crushed it, especially today on the last day. Like
his effort today was insane.
He absolutely needed that final sprint point on that final climb, or Jorgensen would have taken the green jersey. So he had no choice but to go out there and get all those points today, and he did it. And I mean, you could see how spent he was when he got to the top of that climb. And who I think it was, I can't remember who it was that came across like right behind him. But maybe it was Sheffield that had almost caught him right there, but he just squeaked it out, did what he had to do. He got that green jersey, he got the combatif for the final day, and can't say enough good things about him. I don't know about Skelmos though. Sad to see him go out in that crash. Looked rough, hit his head hard, but no fractures, no concussions. So that's good, because Skelmos will always be our ride or die. He was the first professional bike racer that we ever watched cross a finish line live and in person.
You were saying about how good the team had done for Matteo. In stage 6, when they made that great move to split the peloton, I really think that is what solidified the win, and it was straight up a team tactic for them to use the weather and the crosswinds to split the peloton and make that move, and they took that whole team and just chugged. And I think that was a big point in the race where they were like, okay, we're going to set this up so that they knew what was going on. And I would almost bet that, just based on some of the things that I saw like on the periphery of the race, that Matteo was absolutely in the planning of doing that, because he was just very tactical the whole week in how he raced.
Absolutely. He's a very astute bike racer, which I just love. I love him being there on Lisa Bike, because as dominant as they were a couple seasons ago, and their fortunes have kind of been up and down here past couple of years, and it's just very refreshing. And I loved how he said in his interview, he was like, I love being on this team. Speaking of teams, we got to talk about the Ineos Grenadiers. They get the big stage win on the final stage, Josh, with Magnus Sheffield. They won the team competition by, what did you say it was, 15 minutes or something like that?
15 minutes. Yeah.
And they were just omnipresent on the front of this race all week long. I loved it. Sheffield said in his post race that he was targeting this targeting GC here. Like he's been training for GC and didn't quite get there, but got himself past Michael Storer and up into fourth. So Ineos took 3-4 overall in this race with Tymon Aaronsman on the podium. I didn't even mention. So you got Tobias Foss, almost won a stage this time. Josh Tarling, incredible, always there. Magnus Sheffield, Connor Swift, Tymon Aaronsman. That's 5 strong Ineos riders. It was looking grim for this team last year, like grim, and they were hemorrhaging good riders. They lost Yates, they lost Narvaez, and now the future's looking bright. This makes me so happy.
They were doing all of the right things in all of the right places, and Tobias Foss looked really good. I mean, he had 2 stages where he was just really, really, really far out front and doing a lot of work. And, you know, the fact that you're right, these guys struggled for most of last year. And, you know, in the other segment, you know, we'll talk about, you know, Filippo Ganna, and they were all over that race as well. So, you know, it's really interesting to see how the page can turn from year to year for these teams when they struggle. But, you know, also, you know, let's talk about the fact that they got rid of some, you know, possible, you know, toxic riders in their group.
Yeah, that's right. I didn't even mention Pidcock,
Yeah.
Who I think was a big sort of drain on vibes at the team. I mean, he wasn't happy and they weren't happy, and so and that's worked out well for both sides, as I see it. Yeah, I didn't even mention Ghana as part of that picture as well. And the big change here, though, for them is that last year they were still trying to do the Team Sky thing, and like that era is over. And if anybody thinks otherwise, you're wrong. And what we're seeing this year is Ineos taking a completely new approach. They are being aggressive. They're doing attacking style riding, and it's paying off for them. They've opened this season wonderfully. Let's also just mention quickly, Magnus's interview was just a delight. Like, he was getting choked up the whole time. Every time he mentioned his family, he'd get really, really choked up, and it was almost getting into that, like, into what's his name? Our guy that with the great Mahork territory, where he was like, he's just said it's so hard to win a bike race. Like, it's so hard to win a bike race. He's only won one more. He won the Brabanta Pale thing a couple of years back, and now he's got his biggest win of his year. Mention quickly, Merlier, pretty much bossing it first 2 stages, gets back-to-back wins on the sprints. The sprinting race is for this year is just, it's looking good, man. I kind of love like the way sprinting is sort of playing out this year. I mean, Merlier's looking super strong.
Really good, strong riders right now.
Jonathan Milan is looking super strong. Jasper, not quite as much, but he got an emphatic win. And let's not forget he is the defending San Remo champion, which is this coming weekend. So Biniam's in there. Olav Koy's got a couple of wins this year. What's his name? Sam
Bennett.
Sam Bennett's back. It looks like, I mean, he's been on better form this year than he has the past 2 years. He's got a couple of wins this year as well. So, yeah. I mean, you know, Groenewegen and Jakobsen are nowhere to be found, but I think their careers are kind of over.
I think that you're on the wrong side of that one.
They're the last generation.
I wanted to mention something that came up in stage 5, and I just want to get your opinion on it because we've talked about it a couple of times with the new yellow card system. So Axel Zingle got a yellow card for voluntary use of sidewalks. All right. It was during like a pinch point, and he ended up going over on the right-hand side and like riding up on the sidewalk to avoid, a pitch point where the road kind of did like a weird chicane. So he got a yellow card, 25 UCI points, 20-second time penalty, 12 point classification penalization, 8 points penalization in the King of the Mountains. But it's the yellow card that makes me wonder. It's like we've seen some way more dangerous behavior not get a yellow card. And I don't understand why, especially in a pinch point, that's a yellow card offense. I just don't understand the system. What?
Yeah, if he's doing it to avoid a crash too, like that's just like, I mean, did it result in any kind of like geographical advantage to him?
No,
did he pop out on the other side of this? I mean, wow, that's I don't know. I did not see that particular incident, so I can't comment having seen it, but yeah, this whole system is kind of a mess and really needs to be tightened up. I mean, I think we're both on record as being in favor of it as a system if it makes people race safer, but it just seems to be getting meted out in very
odd
uneven ways.
Yeah.
So, well, nonetheless, a great edition of Paris-Nice. I absolutely loved it, and just it bodes so well for the rest of the season for Lisa Bike, and a lot of great action. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, it was a great race. You got anything else?
No.
All right. Well, then, on that note, we will be right back. Please note, this segment will contain spoilers. If you have not watched the finish of the race and wish to remain unspoiled, please jump ahead to segment 3. The 2025 Tirreno-Adriatico stage race in Italy served up some great sprinting action, a strong TT win for one of the modern greats of that discipline, an unlikely win from a breakaway, and confirmation of the form of one of the best GC riders in the world. The 60th edition of the Race from Sea to Sea was a pretty tasty dish. Matt, which bite was most delicious for you?
That is a good question. I think I will go with. I'm always glad to see Pipo Ganna win a TT, but I'm going to go with Olav Koi's win on stage 4 because we love us some Olav, and I want him to be in the conversation this year for the sprinters. The 2025 sprinting competition in general. So that made me happy. I do have to say it was not looking good in some of the other sprints. He seems to have a bit of a positioning issue. Gets boxed out and pushed around a lot. So I hope he can work that out. Now,
stage 2 was very prevalent for that. I think they need to get that lead out fixed a little bit. And if they can get that figured out, because I think that's the thing with Merlier and Milan, these guys have tremendous lead outs. And in his win, he was on the wheel of Matthew Van Der Poel. Like he wasn't being let out by Dan McClay like he should have been. So,
yeah,
I think that's
that's to his credit that he can, that he
improvise.
Can surf the wheels and improvise is important, but it's a little bit more important to have a good sprint train. If you're looking for prolonged success. Now, granted, Laporte is out. We didn't have a Trotnik here. We didn't have Trotnik's not here anymore. Not Trotnik. A Tish Benoot here, who's a great lead out guy. So some of the pieces of the puzzle weren't present. Mm-hmm. And McClay is a young guy. I think he's acquitted himself well, since the start of this season. So nothing to be, alarmed about, I would say, but the team it's a smart team. They know what they need to do. And all things considered, I'm happy that Koi could come away with at least one stage win here. So, not terrible.
I mean, my story of the week is definitely Pipo Ganna. I mean, I thought that talk about a guy that just, obviously ultimately doesn't win the race, gets his stage win in the time trial, but defended that blue jersey as long as he possibly could, and his team was there for him to do it. And even in just in today where he went for that little sprint and got those couple of bonus sections to go from third to second. Like, come on, man. Like, what I mean, he's already super, like a super wonderful guy. He's always, very jovial, and, he has fun, and you love to watch him. And it's just like, it couldn't be for a nicer guy.
Absolutely. He was sort of like, in a way, he was like the Mads Pedersen from Paris-Nice of this race. A guy that was stepping outside of his normal comfort zone. I mean, number one, he steps up and wins the opening day TT. I mean, that's what he's good at. That doesn't come as a surprise. The surprise is the man held on to the jersey, to the blue jersey that he earned on that day until stage 6.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like you just said, he defended the heck out of it, and he's out there climbing up mountains with the climbers.
He's a giant compared to most of those guys.
Exactly. I mean, he's a sprinter. I mean, he's kind of in a big way past couple of years sort of been leaning more towards his sprinting abilities to get wins. So to see this guy out there with that blue jersey, like, hanging in on all these climbs. I mean, half the time he was leading up the climbs. Really great.
Great job.
And he's kind of like the bridge. We were talking about Ineos in our first segment. He's sort of the bridge between the kind of old Ineos team and the new team. He's been on that team for years, and he's been winning for years. When you put him together with all these new young guns that we were talking about, with your Sheffields and Tarlings and all those other guys, like future looks bright for Ineos.
Big time.
That was really good.
What do you think of how Matthew Van Der Poel looked?
I took Van Der Poel's activity in this race as straight warm up for classics. Like he was literally like writing his workouts into these stages. You know what I mean? I think even today he went off the front early, and I think he's just trying to burn calories and make sure that he is completely dialed for next weekend, because he's going to be going after MSR for sure. So that would be my take on him. Much like in Paris-Nice, we saw the big Est sprinter in the race take home 2 stage wins. That would be Johnny Milan from Lidl Trek, who just got it done sprinting. What an ugly sprint. He looks ridiculous when he sprints, but he gets it done, and he seems a pretty likable guy as well. So, I really think sort of like the thing that we're not talking about that we should be is Juan Ayuso. I mean, he won the overall. He took the blue jersey home, the Trofeo Tridente, and I think he just kept it cool the entire race. And at the exact moment when he needed to do the thing that he does, he stepped up and did it, and he kind of did it with ease. And it's nothing but a confirmation of everything we had to say about this team last week when we were talking about him. Yep. This super team. I mean, it's clear to me that he is the number 2 on that team behind Tadej Pogačar.
He's going to be the guy that goes and mops up the things that Pog doesn't do. And, he looks strong. I mean, he's there. He is in contention. And the only thing that I wonder is, like, for a rider like him, is being the number 2 on that team going to be enough for him? Because, man, I'm telling you, man, he takes another couple of steps, and he is a person that could absolutely contend with all those guys.
I agree. I would say as far as this race went, he never put a foot wrong. He never looked uncomfortable. He
was second in the time trial too.
Yeah, he did exactly what he needed to do. So, do I see him at UAE Emirates 5 years from now? Absolutely not. Like this guy will have a team around him, and he will be challenging for the Tour de France. Hopefully, he's probably hoping that, like, he he can kind of slide in there in like 2 or 3 years when Jonas and Pog are sort of on their way down, because he's a fair bit younger than them. I mean, he was still under 25. So that would be my guess. If they send him to the Giro, and he competes this year in the Giro, which would be a strong indication. Yeah, this would be a strong indication that he's ready to compete in the Giro. I think he's going to be very happy. And maybe he does stick around for another year. Maybe he goes to the Tour next year as a domestique with a anything can happen kind of mindset. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I certainly don't think I think he'd love to be a part of a 1-2 Tour de France podium with Pogačar. I think that would make him very happy at this stage in his career, and really set him up for that move to another team that can assemble around him. So,
well, and I think this win, really sets the stage for him to be a factor in the Giro. I mean, obviously Tade's not going to the Giro, so he'll be riding in defense of UAE's win for last year. And I think that he is as likely a winner as anybody that I know that's going to that race right now. And I would, if you don't say that he's in the favorites, you're wrong. He is.
100%. There's no reason why he's not on the podium this year. Yeah. So, and he seems pretty likable. He's not like really flamboyant or anything like that. I know that he spent a good deal of time like in an English speaking country, because his English is like really strong. Mm-hmm. Sometimes with these guys who are not native English speakers, it's interesting to listen to them, because sometimes you can be like, oh yeah, that guy lived in Australia for 5 years. Like that Australian accent is bleeding through. And I think I was catching like almost like an English accent with him. So I need to look into his background, see where he came up. But
his girlfriend and his dog were at the top of the climb the other day.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. That was super cute when he kisses the girl and kisses the dog. So sweet. Like, yeah. I like that.
And moments like that, like you only get moments like that in bike racing, man. It's like you just don't see stuff like that anywhere else.
Yeah. I mean, between that and segment, but Sheffield post-race interview where he was getting choked up. Oh, I just love that kind of stuff. Let's give a quick mention to this guy, Frederick de Versnes from Uno X Mobility, who took that very unlikely win from the breakaway on stage 5. I think he was just stunned at the fact that they did not catch him. Like, there is no reason for him to not have been caught. I mean, the chase blew it on that one. But very cool to see. I mean, we like Uno X. They're another one of those teams that's having a pretty strong year. I mean, between Magnus Kort taking the Grand Camino with 3 stages, and that other guy Johansson is really good on that team and strong this year.
Abrahamson.
So that was cool. I think we hit everything. Oh, and then we had a.
I have one thing I wanted to mention about that same stage where Frederick won. Ghana had a mechanical in the 3K, and he ended up getting the same time. But there was definitely a question during the stage whether or not he would be allowed that, because it wasn't a puncture, it wasn't a wreck. His chain snapped. Right. So I'm glad to see. I mean, I really don't think that that's, a reason for him not to be on the same time in the 3K rule, spectrum. So I was very glad to see that the UCI went that way with it as opposed to the other way.
I understand the argument, to be sure. Yeah, there is definitely a difference between like a crash, a puncture, something that an externality that causes you to lose time versus just like something going wrong on your machine that you're responsible for. So I could see it. There is a justification there, but I am in agreement with you that I'm glad they went that way. The other stage winner I think we haven't mentioned yet was Andrea Vendrami on stage 3. He's from Decathlon AG2R on the like crazy bad weather day. Another Ineos rider we haven't mentioned, Lawrence Depluski, was amazing for Ghana, and let's not forget, like, Ghana was looking like he might take that stage. He attacked it with like 3.3 to go and got some really good clearance, and then like MVDP came through to spoil the party. That was the one where Pidcock hung in pretty strong for second on that just like slow burn sprint between Pidcock and Vendrame. That was a good stage. That final 10K was really good, actually.
I have one of my notes says Pippo Ganna launches at 3.6 to go. Defense by offense, he is like a fucking rocket ship.
Yeah. But the Plouffe was like setting it up for him. Like earlier in that race, the Plouffe was on the front. Was on the front of the thing, just making it hard as possible. So, another piece of that of the Ineos puzzle. Top Ghana, baby.
Yep,
Top Ghana.
Absolutely. Well,
cool race. Yeah, I'd say overall, I mean, both of these stage races. I love this week of the year. It's so fun how like this they always go the same week. It's like you got the 2 races to watch. You get home from work every day, and it's like 2 races to watch. I love it. And I think in both sides we got some great racing and very, very satisfied with the winners. I mean, I don't care about UAE Emirates all that much. I'd much rather have seen Ghana win it, but that kind of wasn't going to happen. Everybody knew it. So, I got no beef with Juan Ayuso. Seems a nice enough guy.
Absolutely. Well, on that note, we'll be right back.
Don't miss the Team Bus, our weekly companion podcast to the main Beyond the Slipstream show. Our domestique, if you will, dropping every Wednesday in your usual podcast feed.
Please note, this segment will contain spoilers. If you have not watched the finish of the race and wish to remain unspoiled, please jump ahead to the Broom Wagon. The Italian one-day race, the Trofeo Alredo Binda, is one of the oldest and most beloved races on the women's road calendar. Known as the Sprinters Classic, this year's race offered up some tantalizing possibilities for something other than a bunch sprint at the finish line. With multiple attacks off the front in the closing kilometers and a strong little breakaway with around 5Ks to go that looked primed to stay away to the line, Matt, did the sprinters get their chance or did their teams get it wrong?
The teams got it right, and the sprinters got their chance, but only just barely because that little like 4-woman group at the very end there looked like it could definitely make something happening. That was Vollering, Eliza Longer Borghini, Puck Peters, and that Jayco rider. Yep. That's a strong little trio right there that have already proven themselves more than ready this season on multiple occasions. But as you said in the intro, this is a sprinter's race, and a bunch sprint is what we got. A pretty clean bunch sprint, and it saw now 3-time winner
Elisa Balsamo
take the win. Good race.
It was. I think that she got it exactly right. I think she knew exactly what she was doing. She didn't, chase after those groups that tried to break away. I think she knew exactly where her spot was. And in the end, the youngster Kat Ferguson looked like she went a little too quick, and Balsamo just blew off like a rocket and was, a bike length ahead of everybody at the end.
Yeah, she said in her post race that it was like one of the hardest days she's ever had on the bike, but that having raced there so often that she really knows like every square inch of the race course, and it showed. She timed it to perfection. Mariana Voss, nowhere to be found in that sprint. She looked super strong going into it and just like faded in the last like 150 meters, which was disappointing. She's never won that race before, I believe.
She did get a nice bike throw at the end to steal 4th from
right.
And the name's escaping me right now. It'll probably be in 10 seconds.
But let's go back a little bit. 18, 19 Ks to go, we got an attack once again, just like last weekend, from no less than Anna van der Breggen, who has also never won this race. I'm so interested to see how this woman's season goes here. It's completely fascinating, given her palmarès versus her age and time away from racing. And yet we keep seeing her in the mix in ways. I mean, she got second in Strade Bianche last weekend. Pretty damned impressive. Didn't manage to translate her attack into even a top 10 this time around. But there was certainly no way that she was going to win this race in any other way than a long attack like that. So,
correct me if I'm wrong. Has she still been mountain bike racing or cyclocross racing?
No, I don't.
She has been completely off the bike.
So, I mean, off the bike in terms of racing, yes, I believe. I mean, but I think the entire time she was working as a DS for SD Works, that she was like training alongside of them.
Okay.
So I think she spent many thousands of hours in the saddle during her time away from actual racing. But so what I'm hoping is that like she is just all in for the Tour de France, and all of this is just like a part of a slow build. Because that would truly be like the tastiest thing we could see all year, is her and Demi Vollering going head to head for the Tour de France. That would be amazing. Given all the history. I mean, that's what made the race last weekend. It's kind of so fascinating. So it gave us such goosebumps, as Danny Rose said, as they were going through the little gate and headed up the climb last weekend. So yeah, really, really cool to see her out there and shaking it up. But that move did not come to anything. But then we saw like a lot of activity at the front of the race, people trying to get clear. I love how these races become like these puzzles that the riders have to, and the teams and the riders have to solve, in order to get a win, or in order to avoid the inevitability. Unfortunately, in the end here, fortunately or unfortunately, the inevitability was not avoided. It came down to a sprint, like it always does. And it just kind of, to me, it makes it kind of special, like the way these races play out, because it's like, the teams, you got to try something. Like certain teams, they know they don't have a sprinter. They want to win the race. They're there to try to win the race. And so you got to try something, and it makes for interesting viewing.
Well, especially considering how many, top name riders were in this race. And I think you're right that, a lot of them, the only chance is to try to somehow, get unattached from the group and try to make a smaller breakaway or even a solo ride, and get out of it. I mean, this is one of those races that if it transposed to the men's side, like Pogačar would eat this alive. He would come off the front and he would be the rider that could take something like that.
Yeah, because it's got kind of a sawtooth profile to it. It's not just like kind of pan flat, with a lot of quote unquote sprinters races are. Yeah, that's interesting. I'd love to see the men race over that course. Yeah. Maybe they do at some other race at some point in time, because a lot of this stuff is like interchangeable. I mean, maybe the Giro d'Italia from time to time goes along there or something, but yeah, that's an interesting point. What was I just going to say?
We got to talk about Kat Ferguson no matter what.
Go ahead.
So, love to see the youngster Kat Ferguson from Movistar in the mix at the end. Probably launched a little too early. I think, a little more experience and she could have contested for the win. But really glad to see her on the podium, man. That was a neat, unexpected surprise. I mean, she was hanging in there with that big group all day, and so she was there. But I was surprised to actually see her competing and end up getting on the podium. Yes,
competing for Alfredo Binda, no less. I mean, this is a big classic. I mean, this for all intents and purposes, this has been the women's analog to Milan San Remo for the past 50 years. Now, women are finally getting the MSR this year. So that's why this race took place this weekend at all. Normally it would have taken place next weekend alongside the men's MSR race. So huge race, I mean, essentially a women's monument. And to see Kat Ferguson up there on the podium is nuts and bodes so well for next weekend. I mean, forget about there's so many hitters that are going to be going for this once in a lifetime opportunity. I mean, you're going to get a lot of chances to win Milan-San Remo, but you get one shot at being the first winner of Milan-San Remo. So they're all going to be there. You're going to see Vollering. You're going to see Voss. You're going to see Kopecky. You're going to see Van de Breggen. You're going to see Peters. You're going to see what's her name, Lorena Vibis, and now you're going to see Kat Ferguson in there, and it's just going to be, because it used to be Milan-San Remo, up until about maybe 10 years ago, MSR was very often a big sprint at the end, and I would be so okay with that this year if all those names that I just rattled off are all right there on the sprinting it out to the finish. Holy crap, will that be exciting? I'm so unbelievably stoked.
This race very exciting to have all those big names, because there were so many possibilities of different outcomes. I mean, obviously it ended up coming to the agreed upon outcome for most people, but it's neat to have those moments of, is this rider strong enough to actually get away from these guys?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And for next week, there's a lot of women in the Pro Peloton that face the same issue that Pogačar faces in trying to win this very, very tricky race for him, because at the end of the day, the Poggio is not a massive climb. It's a very manageable climb. I mean, Mads Pedersen's going to get over this climb no problem next week and be in contention. I have a strong feeling about that. And so you take somebody like an Eliza Longo Borghini, she's not going to win a sprint. No chance. She's not going to top 10 this race unless she can somehow get clear sometimes. So it's being set up for a lot of very similar action like we saw in today's race, I think, where you're going to see all kinds of moves on the Poggio, and I think
one to watch is Kopecky. I mean, I think Kopecky is that the type of rider that could really swallow that up.
I feel like it's her first race of the season, right? Have we seen her in action at all this year? I have no recollection. I haven't seen her done anything this year.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So, I mean, I guess it'd be a mystery as to what her form is like right now, but one would have to believe that she has been getting herself dialed in for that day. Yeah. Going to be super exciting. This was a great race. Alfredo Binda, I believe, is the earliest of the great Italian champions. He predates Fausto Coppi. I think this guy was racing back in the 20s and 30s, Alfredo Binda, and was a national hero essentially. So, this is the race that bears his name. It's been around since the 70s. Old race, absolutely gorgeous environs. The little abbey that they showed that hanging off the side of the cliff, it's just unreal. So beautiful race, a great finish. I love me some Elisa Balsamo. She's just just a pure Italian woman. She's got this long hair, and she's just a fighter, just a badass.
Well, I'm telling you, from a tactic standpoint, I think she knew exactly what she was doing, and she knew exactly how not to expend the energy trying to answer all those attacks, and she knew that it was going to come down to that, and she played it perfectly, is my opinion.
Yeah. Chapeau to her. She's one of the all-time great women's sprinters, and I'm sure she's got a lot more winning in her this season.
All right. Well, on that note, we'll be right back for another ride in the Broom Wagon. Welcome back. Matt, what do you got for the Broom Wagon?
All right. For my broom wagon this weekend, I'm going to kind of make a local reference, but a local recommendation, but I'll make a larger recommendation for more far-flung listeners as well. So locally, my recommendation is a cocktail bar here in Washington, D.C., where I live, or in the D.C. area. It's called the Golden Age. It's at 1726 Connecticut Avenue, a couple blocks north of DuPont Circle. I went there last night after attending an event with my lovely wife. And it is a fantastic cocktail bar. It's called the Golden Age as a reference to the Golden Age of cocktails, which is sort of like the pre-prohibition era, the Roaring 20s. And you go into this place and it is dark, and it's got the wallpaper, and it's got the gold, and it's killing it on the ambiance side. And then they've absolutely got just a beautiful, beautiful menu of classic cocktails. And I want to tell you about two of the drinks I had last night, and that's going to get into the second part of my recommendation. So I had two drinks last night, one with rum and one with gin. And this is my second recommendation. I work as a bartender, as many listeners might know. And there's a whole lot of whiskey guys out there, whiskey guys and whiskey gals. Like, people are loving whiskey, have been for the past better part of 20 years here. It's been a whole renaissance. And you got all kind of whiskey aficionados, and people are doing the whiskey trail down in Kentucky and blah, blah, blah. And I'm always pushing these folks to broaden their palates out and to go in different directions. So if you've got comfortable with your whiskey drinks, here's two great directions you can go in. One, aged rum, and two, gin. Okay. And, a lot of people hear the words rum or gin, and it triggers some kind of an association from their past when they had a bad experience with something or other, and blah, blah, blah. So if you got that going on, I don't know what to tell you, get over it maybe. But, if you got a little spirit of adventure in you, and you have enjoyed broadening your palate out and learning how to pick out the nuances in whiskeys and stuff like that, and how to appreciate the different the different parts of cocktails and the nuances that you get in drinking whiskey cocktails, well, then I think rum is a really natural next step in the progression for you. And gin, while it is, decidedly different in flavor, generally speaking, from whiskey, it offers so much complexity and so many different flavors that you can get into, that you really should not sleep on that category. So I had a rum drink last night. It was called a daiquiri number 5. It's got house spiced rum, honey, orange. It's got a honey, orange, and citrus blend, and then it's finished with clarified milk wash. And it was just a delightful cocktail. Like, it had like hints of sweetness, but it had this really great depth to it. If you've never had like a fat wash cocktail, that's like a whole
What is clarified milk wash?
So basically, if you fat wash a cocktail, it basically you take the spirit, whatever it is, and you mix it with a fat, and then you pull the fat back off after it's been mixed. So like I made a fat wash bourbon once. I did it with bacon fat. So basically I took a bottle of bourbon, I dumped it into a mixing bowl. I mixed in some liquid bacon fat. I mixed it all in. I let it sit, let it come to room temperature. Then you put it in the refrigerator so you can get the fats to start separating. All the solids are going to come to the top, but right. The whiskey, in the time that it's spent fat washing, has taken on that flavor. So that will make bacon flavored whiskey. You strain it off. Just you can make sure you strain off all the little fat bits. Yeah. You put it at the end of the process. You put it in the freezer, but it comes out that way. Now, when you're talking about a clarified like milk wash, this is a process, same kind of thing where you're washing your spirit, or sometimes they'll wash they'll do an entire batch of cocktails and like milk wash it. But by clarifying it, you get clear. You get like a clear liquid. Like I had a milk punch drink one time. It was a clarified milk punch, and it was clear in the glass, which is just nuts. So it gets this great kind of creamy body to it, and yet it's clear. So beautiful cocktail. And then the gin drink I did last night was called the Poet's Dream, and I straight up ordered it based off of the name, because I just love that name. It had gin, dry vermouth, Benedictine, and bitters. Okay, so this is going to be an aggressive cocktail for someone. This thing was served in a martini glass, clear as day, in color, with a nice lemon twist. This is akin to drinking a martini or something like that. But again, Benedictine is a liqueur that's made from a bunch of different botanical ingredients. Of course, bitters are made with botanical ingredients. Dry vermouth is made with botanical ingredients. So what I'm looking for in a drink like this is complexity. I want to taste a bunch of interesting little notes and be like, what's that like, and get my pinky finger up and, be my bougiest, snobbiest, beverage aficionado self. But if you can embrace gin and you're into nuances and flavors and stuff like that, I highly recommend you go to a nice place that's got a interesting bespoke cocktail list, order something out of the box, get out of your comfort zone, try some different flavors. There's just an incredible world of flavor possibilities out there. And, if you got a nice little craft cocktail bar you can find, don't get the old fashioned if that's what you drink all the time. Get something interesting. You can make yourself an old fashioned at home any old time. So that's my recommendation. What do you got?
I want to recommend a comedian that I've come across who I was kind of aware of through The Daily Show, because he's a correspondent on The Daily Show. But have you ever heard of Josh Johnson?
I have not.
So Josh Johnson is one of the correspondents that's like one of the peripheral characters on The Daily Show, but he is also a stand-up comedian. He has a tremendous YouTube channel where essentially, during the week he works for The Daily Show, and the weekends he goes out on tour. And he puts up his sets like on YouTube every week, and he's very topical, a little political. Some people might not, care for his perspective, but it is very, very funny. He also just does a lot of topical humor, and the reason why I put him in the Broom Wagon is he is super against ticket reselling, which I think that most of us that enjoy live performative arts kind of hate the fact that, we live in an age now where people buy tickets and resell them for a profit and, really make certain things unreachable. And
it's not just people, it's companies that are doing this shit now.
Yeah. And he is doing his own, in his own way, trying to combat that while he's on tour, and by encouraging people to get on his email list. And, they're doing like pre-sales to try to keep tickets at the right price in his fans' hands so that everybody can have the experience, and it's not just limited to people that, for whatever reason can afford to pay, these exorbitant ticket prices. And I just, I really like his perspective. I really like his attitude. He is, it seems like a very kind and gentle soul, but he is also extremely funny. So I encourage you to go check out Josh Johnson. And he is touring right now. Go online. If he's coming to a city near you, go get tickets. I'm sure you will have a great time.
Yeah, I am really looking forward to looking him up. But for a second there, I was just so worried that you, like so many other people I've talked to here lately, are just going to say, oh, he's just like a crowd work guy. Like, I'm over it with the crowd work comedians. Like, I could care less. Like, that's the easiest.
No.
I want somebody writing good material. So it sounds like that's the kind of guy.
And it's like very topical stuff. Like, he'll bring up, things that are in the news and, in his sets. And so I've peeled off a bunch of his videos, in the last, 2 weeks in when I need just something as a break from other things. And he's really good. He's super funny. And I just, I can't recommend the guy enough.
I'm going to check him out for sure. And also, I'm right there with you as far as like ticket resellers. Just as a general rule for people, if you have your eye on some sort of, live thing that you want to see, music, a comedian, a play, whatever, the very first thing you need to do is whatever the venue is where that thing is being shown, go to their website. First thing, go to their website or go to the artist's website. those are your two sources for finding out how to buy the tickets. Do not Google tickets for Josh Johnson this weekend. Don't do that, because that is going to send you to a secondhand reseller site. Go straight to the source. That's my recommendation on your recommendation.
Absolutely. And that's all for this week. Join us next week for full coverage of both sides of the first monument race of the year, Milan-San Remo. We'll also be going deep down the Danny Carey rabbit hole with a close look at the very famous Numa performance that launched 1,000 reaction videos. Until then, for my brother Matt, I'm Justin Harper. Thanks for listening. We hope you'll join us on another ride beyond the slipstream. Ale!
Beyond the Slipstream is a production of Harperama. Find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Please like and subscribe, smash that button, leave a 5-star review, and most importantly, tell all your friends about us. Thanks for listening. Talk to you next time. Ale!